So you probably know, the code name for D-Day?
No.
Operation Overlord. There was a companion thing called Operation Bodyguard, and in particular Operation Fortitude, which was inside of Operation Bodyguard, which was the planned invasion of Norway, which was never going to happen. But we faked an entire invasion of Norway because we had a troop buildup in England that was going to be headed into a very narrow place and was going to be outgunned by the Germans. So how do you get all of these people who have to fight, who have loose lips, probably going off and seeing prostitutes, who knows, not to spill the beans on D-Day? Well, you create an entirely fake invasion of Norway. Is it possible to bring up Operation Fortitude just to see a map of this thing? So they faked radio chatter. They had inflatable tanks. I think there were army divisions that didn't exist.
I was looking at something. It didn't call it what you called it, but it's the same stuff.
Yeah?
I think this is the map you're talking about.
Well, that's northern France. Fortitude would be targeted on...
I've seen the inflated tanks.
Yeah, it's funny, right?
That was what it was regards to.
So deception, and we talked about kayfabe before.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very focused on it. What I really care about...
Look at that. That's hilarious. They had a bunch of inflatable tanks.
So this entire deception had to be parallel. Overlord wouldn't have worked without Fortitude. Now, if you assume that that's the basic paradigm, which is whenever we're going to do something badass, we're also going to do something fake. I thought the UFOs was the Operation Fortitude part of something real. This is my bad. I screwed up. Eric failed, blah, blah, blah.
So you thought, like, at what point? Like when the New York Times had revealed they had talked to people in the Pentagon? Before that?
I thought, okay, you want to develop the SR-71 Blackbird. You want to develop the stealth bomber. You want a code. You want a cover program. So you're going to come up with like UFOs. Somebody sees something in the air. Dude, there was like a flying triangle. I swear to God. There was this thing that went so fast I couldn't even believe it. Well, one of them is the B-2 bomber, and the other one is SR-71 Blackbird. Duh.
Right.
So why do I want to get involved with Operation Fortitude? I'm a patriotic American. If we're going to lie about stuff and we're doing it for a good purpose and it's not hurting anybody, I don't want to get involved and say, I'm so smart I can figure it out. I don't want to be anywhere near that.
Right.
So that's what I assumed about UFOs. And I goofed.
So what do you think it is now?
Well, that's the new question.
And what made you shift this perspective?
So there was this weird thing that happened where we announced through the New York Times that this stuff may be more real than anyone cared to imagine. And Jeremy Corbell was releasing these videos, and who was leaking them, I don't know. And the New York Times was authenticating, and you get all of this, again, tons of ambiguity. So everybody's decision tree blows out. Nobody can think straight. But I thought, oh no, what if the old Feynman stories that I've been following are actually about something rather than about a deception? So, for example, Feynman has a story where he says, hey, there was this guy who was giving physics lectures to aerospace engineers, and they didn't like him, so I had to go out to Buffalo. I thought, Buffalo, that's Curtiss Wright. You're going to Curtiss Wright Aerospace. And he's got another one about, give me $1 because somebody calls him up and says, give us the nuclear patents to, like, fission-driven planes and crazy stuff. Feynman is constantly telling us, he's got a story called It's Greek to Me, where he shows up in North Carolina, can't remember whether he's supposed to go to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, or Greenville. And he has to figure it out, and he says, I'm late to the conference. There would be a bunch of people mumbling the words G mu nu. And the guy says, oh, it's Chapel Hill. So he goes there. So ha ha ha, it's a cute story about how clever Feynman is, which they all are. But that was a conference sponsored by the Institute for Field Physics at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, sponsored by Agnew Bainson through Bryce DeWitt, who is the person who repurposed the Gravity Research Foundation essay, which is only supposed to be about harnessing gravity, anti-gravity devices like UFOs. And he said, well, if you really want to get to anti-gravity, you have to do it through quantum gravity. right? Now, he did that, and then a couple of people from the Institute, it was Arnowit and Desser, entered and won this competition that had the stench about it because it was like stigmatized. You're going to enter a competition for anti-gravity devices? Ha, ha, ha. Oppenheimer says, wow, you guys won this by using the name of the Institute for Advanced Study. You give the money back right now. We're not going to touch pseudoscience. The guys kept the money. And then the floodgates opened, and Penrose entered it, and Wilczek entered it. Everybody and their mother, Martin Pearl, entered this competition. Lots of Nobel laureates win it. This is this marriage of total bullshit and top drawer physics that the rest of us are not allowed to participate. So if you want a weird model for how physics works, think about diplomatic immunity, but in science. You've got this group of people at the top who are allowed to engage in quackery. They can hang out at Esalen and smoke dope and take LSD and go into sensory deprivation tanks like Feynman. They can pal around with rich people who are talking about anti-gravity. But the rest of us have to stay in our lane. Well, that ends now. Now that I've been contacted by people saying, Eric, Sam Harris and I were both contacted saying that there's a disclosure planned and there's big updates and we need you to communicate this news to the world.
There's disclosure about a specific technology.
About something. I mean, more or less the way this works, it doesn't matter who you talk to. Something is huge. I can't talk to you about it because you don't have clearance. But we're going to fly out to Colorado Springs. And we're going to show you some stuff, and you're never going to be the same. Right? Like, okay, I'm on standby. My process, Joe, is that I'm very open-minded, but I have a very strong filter before I'll say, yeah, that's true. That's real.
Okay.
That freaks people out. It's like, why are you even talking to these people? Well, because I know the history, and you don't.